My first day in the police force was Saturday the 22nd of October 1966, which for people of my age and other generations was the day after the Aberfan disaster, which of course was a dreadful time. And me and two other colleagues were joined that day, and we were told to go to Merthyr police station to be sworn in by the wife of the local Member of Parliament, Mrs. S.O. Davis. Well, of course, when we got to the police station, it was chaotic, because Aberfan had happened on the Friday evening. This was Saturday morning. Lorry drivers are turning up from all over the country offering their services. The village was clogged, nobody could get in there. So I was given a job of speaking to lorry drivers, taking their names, addresses and any telephone numbers they may have, because not many people had telephones then, and sending them away and say, we'll be in touch with you, in due course, but don't go to Aberfan, it was chock-a-block. That was my first thing I did in the police force. I then went down to Bridgend for 3 months and then came back out in October of '67. Then, of course, came Amalgamation in 1969. Now, we were being prepared for that because in 1968 they started to build a new divisional headquarters in Merthyr, which would be the headquarters of what would be the new A division of Merthyr and Aberdare, and that would be the letter A division. Well, on the 3rd of November 1968, I went to work at 6 a.m. in the old police station, which was virtually empty. Clocked on at 6 o'clock in the morning, did the normal 8-hour shift, and then went to the new division headquarters at 2 p.m. that day to book off. And of course the facilities were wonderful, to us. The old eating facilities in the old Merthyr police station was 2 gas rings, 2 little slop buckets, and a wooden table with 2 benches and a chair at the end where the sergeant sat. But you had to sit in your own position on the wooden bench. And then, of course, the new police station had a brand new kitchen with ladies working there. You got a choice of 5 or 6 meals. It was wonderful. It was a big change. Our numbers changed, of course. In Merthyr Borough, there was 135 officers in my time. Numbers 1 to 6 were the females. Sergeant Margaret Rees was number 1. Then you had 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 police officers, female. Then you had 735 who were the men. My number was 115. And upon amalgamation, or shortly after amalgamation, they used the Glamorgan numbers, then they had Cardiff on, then they had the Swansea on, then they had the Merthyr numbers on. So my number became 2,496 from 115. So that was a change. The facilities were much better. Obviously, not only were the kitchen facilities much better, the radio room, brand new radios. The old chief constable, Mr. T.K. Griffiths, as I mentioned earlier, he was starting to spend money prior to the amalgamation, trying to bring Merthyr back into the modern day, because it had fallen behind. I joined when we had mini walks in Merthyr Tydfil, which were like these little small jeeps with no sides. You had a canvas roof. You had canvas sides which you could put up if you really wanted to, but invariably you didn't bother. It was so easy to get in and out. And me and my colleagues would drive around in those in the winter with 2 inches of water at your feet because there was no sides, and they were dreadful. But in the summer, they were wonderful. You could take the canvas roof off, You're like General Patton driving into here we are, we've come to liberate you. It was wonderful. But they went then, and modest thousands came in, and then various different cars as the years went by. But facilities improved a great deal. It's got to be said that amalgamation was great for that. There was no lightning bolt, suddenly it's different. As I said earlier, things carried on the same way. The job was a great job then. It was a great job after amalgamation, and I'm sure if you speak to the young police officer now who doesn't know any different, he only knows what he knows, it's a great job now. And I always said, when the old sergeant would say to me, the job isn't what it used to be, Dinham, what are you joining for? I made a vow then to never say that. Because when you join, you think it's the best job in the world. And these young lads now, I'm sure, and women, I'm sure they think it's the best job in the world, because they can't compare with anything. And you shouldn't compare.
You will probably smile when I say this, or policemen would these days. When I joined, we had 2 different helmets to wear. One was with a silver badge on, with Cardiff City Police, and the other helmet was with a black badge. And the instructions we were given when we joined, the black badge is for night duty. And when you come on nights, you wear the helmet with a black badge, and you walk against the building, the walls of the building, because we don't want the villains to see you. and that's why you had the black badge. During the daytime, the instruction was you wear the helmet with the silver badge and you always walk on the outside of the pavement so everybody can see you. It's slightly different these days, and I tell my daughter and she just didn't believe me. I must admit there were quite a few people round who said, "What? Amalgamate? Join them?" It didn't worry me, but there were quite a few, I would say, more senior, not police, senior officers. There's some sergeants or inspectors who say, "Oh, join them." Now, whether it's because they've been around a lot longer and they were more set in their ways, I'm not sure. But I can remember the conversation amongst the bobbies at the time was, well, yeah, okay, but as long as they don't move me to Barry, or as long as they don't move me to Merthyr, because we were supposed to be protected. If you were in the Cardiff city, and I presume the same would have been Swansea or Merthyr, they couldn't move you out too far travelling distance from your home unless you were willing. But in those days, maybe the same as in these days, nobody believed what you were being told. So that was one of the major concerns, but it didn't happen. I'm not aware of anybody, any of my mates, that were moved against their will. If it came to promotion, well, that's something you had to take. If they wanted to promote you to a sergeant and they said, "Oh, you've got to go to Merthyr," well, you either got promoted or you stayed where you were. But they may have only ever done that if they wanted to get their own back on you. I don't know anybody that was messed around. What things would have been like now if there had still been a Cardiff City Police. Times change, and I certainly had no problem moving on with it. I did different jobs, joined the dog section in the South Wales Police, got promoted, and it wasn't until I made Chief Inspector I was moved, and that was to a lovely cosy job down at headquarters as Chief Inspector in charge of police buildings.
There were no great demands on us, crime-wise, drug-wise, and all the violent crimes that you have today. So we were able to cope quite adequately with the demands at that particular time. I particularly remember the morning of amalgamation. I was on the morning shift in Sketty Police Station, and I answered the telephone and I said, "South Wales Police." And this lady said, "Oh, I want to speak to Swansea Borough Police." And I had to explain to her what had happened. In fact, what I was doing was waiting for them to ring me to tell me my motorcycle had been serviced and it was ready for me to pick it up, because I was on the motorcycle patrol at that particular time. And I was the only radio out on the beat at that particular time, or in that division. I know many of these things that I'm going to say now may make people raise their eyebrows, but we had to have permission to marry. We had to have permission to leave the borough on our day off or on annual leave. We weren't allowed to go outside Swansea Borough. We had to have permission to buy a house, and our wives-to-be had to be interviewed to see if they were fit and proper persons for you to marry, to be a police officer's wife. So that's how really antiquated things were in relation to that. It's very, very much more difficult being a police officer these days. But as I see it, it had to change, because if society changes and society's attitude changes, the police service has to evolve with it, and that's exactly what has happened. But as far as the South Wales Police are concerned, as I see it as a chaplain, I think that the duty of care and the health and well-being is absolutely superb because of what police officers and staff have to face.
The amalgamation, as far as I was concerned in the four forces, was a great advantage to this force. We were able to get together and bring our expertise together and to police and protect the people of South Wales as one. And I thought the advantage was overwhelming, really. And when you look back and see it, because it took a long time, you know, for the amalgamation process to go, and we learned from each other, and we got better at doing things. And it was well worth doing, no doubt in my mind about that. One of the things that we had to do when we joined, we had to, at the start of each shift, line up. And our sergeant then would ask us to produce our notebook. He would ask us to produce our staff and our handcuffs, and then he would actually walk along the line and make sure that your hair was right, that your tunic and trousers were pressed, that your shoes were clean. And it was a huge thing, was your appearance. And of course that appearance helped in the authority of a police officer when you went out in the street and you were dressed that way, and the authority and the people treated you very, very well. Of course, when we joined back in the 1960s, we were in the No. 8 District Police Training Centre, and it's right out the back of these headquarters where we stayed for 13 weeks and slept for 13 weeks. And of course we made great friends of people who joined the Swansea force, who joined the Cardiff force, the Merthyr force, and we stayed together for 13 weeks. And those friendships that you made then were made for life. And now you will be aware of NAPO, the Association of Retired Police Officers. And we meet all these years later, monthly, 2 monthly. And of course we talk about today's events, but in particular we reminisce about what it was like then. And we have stayed friends for all these years. I would not hesitate to recommend being a police officer. You have that great satisfaction that some of the things that we do, and when we're successful at it, gives you a tremendous feeling. And so I would say join and experience what I experienced over the 50 years.